Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be interviewing Robert Hargrove. Robert is a globally recognized authority on leadership and coaching, is the founder of Masterful Coaching. He has dedicated his career to helping leaders unlock their full potential and achieve greatness. His innovative approach to coaching has made a lasting impact on the world of leadership development. Robert, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. It is nice to meet you as well. Let's go back in time just a little bit, because you didn't wake up at the age of 8 and say, I'm going to change the world of leadership and coaching. How did you get started?
That's a great question. It started when I was listening to John F. Kennedy give his inaugural address. As you can see, I'm a bit senior, and so I was around when he gave his inaugural address, and he talked about everyone can make a difference and everyone should try. And at that time in my life, I remember my mother was always getting on my father's back saying, why are you coming home late? He said, I'm trying to make a living. And I remember saying to myself, I want to do more than make a living. And when I heard John F. Kennedy talk about making a difference, I decided I wanted to go in that direction. And I was very inspired by his leadership, and I wanted to, by his great leadership, or what it seems like at the time, and I wanted to inspire other leaders to find their greatness and make a difference in the world. So that was the beginning of it. And during that inaugural address, when Kennedy said the torch has been passed to a new generation, I actually felt like he was speaking directly to me, and that I found a mission. And probably I was only 12 years old at the time.
Well, that is beautiful. How did you become known as the CEO Whisperer?
Well, it was a long story, really. I started out doing personal transformation workshops. I call them leadership weekends. And I was sitting in a room like I am today, and I said, I want to be able to inspire people, not only inspire people and empower people, but I want to bring people together and help them to have a kind of transformational experience that would make a life-altering difference. And so I started doing these leadership weekends in Boston, and they were very powerful. It was like a 72-hour experience. And we were then invited to go to Montreal to take it over there, to Zurich, Switzerland, to Berlin, Germany, to Paris, France, to Tokyo. Before long, I had done these leadership weekends with over 30,000 people. And some of the people that started to show up were CEOs, or what I like to call enterprise leader. I actually like the word enterprise leader better than CEO, because it applies to more people. And some of them would come up to me and say, Robert, I want you to bring this kind of leadership weekend. I want you to bring that into my company. I'd like you to help us transform our culture. I'd like to help us go for an impossible dream, not just predictable results.
That is incredible. And then talk to us a little bit about your work with the Harvard Leadership Project.
Well, after I became known as the CEO Whisperer, because I think largely because I was invited by these CEOs to come into their company And I discovered that most CEOs or entrepreneurs, they need someone to talk to. And it's hard to talk to, you can talk to your spouse, but he or she may not be able to really be conversant in how to run a Fortune 500 company, or what's the political situation with the board or whatever. So I just became someone that I was good at asking questions, and then people would tell me whatever was really on their mind. They would tell me all kinds of things. So that's how I became the CEO Whisperer. And then I would learn, as I was saying, that to be a good CEO Whisperer, you have to talk less than you listen. But if you talk less than you listen, if you listen for a really long time, finally, when you have to say something, when you have something to say, people will really take on board what you have to offer them. And I did, and one of the things I did in addition to that was kind of discipline myself to add value, make sure whatever came out of my mouth would add value.
And then how did the work with the Harvard, what is the Harvard Leadership Research Project, and how did that come?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over that. So as a result of that, I was contacted by some people at Harvard Business School and also by the Sloan School of Management. There was a guy that wrote a book called The Fifth Discipline, the Art and Practice of the Learning Organization. And they said, Robert, we want to research how do you develop leaders who, in a way that goes beyond sitting in a classroom. We want you to help us to develop leaders who can do more than make sure their boss doesn't yell at them, deliver predictable results as promised, collect their bonus. We want you to help us develop leaders who can do anything. So I began a research program on the future, what I would call the future of leadership development. That's what I did there. And we brought CEOs in from all over the country, all over the world, not just CEOs, but really people at all levels.
It's absolutely incredible. And then talk a little bit about Masterful Coaching.
Well, Masterful Coaching is something that comes, it comes from the heart, not the head. I love people. I love the idea that I could interact with people in a conversation that would be life-changing for them. So I'm always ready to have a conversation with people that the purpose of which would be to help them elevate their aspirations and motivations, would help them to help them break the grip and excel beyond paradigms that are keeping them from moving forward in their personal and professional lives, or and ultimately realize their potential. I think a lot of what I do is really just help people realize their hidden potential. I've done it not only with CEOs and managers, but refugees and newly arrived immigrants and many, many elderly people.
Who is an ideal client for Masterful Coaching?
An ideal client for Masterful Coaching is a person, there was a book written by Adam Grant of the Wharton School of Business. He said, the book was titled The Originals, How Nonconformists Move the World. I like to work with people who are who are what I call iconoclasts versus conformists. They don't maybe fit, they kind of bend the rules. Steve Jobs would be one of those. Elon Musk might be one. Richard Branson might be another. I'm not saying these are the specific people, but they're examples of iconoclasts. But to give a specific example, I was one of the people that came to my leadership weekends was a fellow by the name of Rene Yagi. And he was a vice president at Kraft Foods at the time. And he really loved the program. He was a Swiss guy who spoke with a very thick Swiss German accent, very charming, very charismatic. And he loved this leadership weekend. 2 years later, he called me up. He said, Robert, I'm now the CEO of Adidas. He said, if you don't come here right away and help me kick Nike's butt in Europe, I'm going to take a gun and shoot myself. So, a coaching consultant doesn't get that many calls like that. The next day or the day after, he sent a private jet to pick me up, and I was on my way to Herzogenaurach, Germany, to help the company. And I remember when I came there, he said, Robert, I want you to know one thing, and this answers your question. But my goal is not evolution, it's revolution. Help me lead a revolution. So that's the kind of person. But interestingly enough, the person is not a cold person. I like people who are warm. I don't gravitate that well or like, I shouldn't say I don't like that much, but it's people who are cold, dispassionate.
So is there an ideal company size? Not all of our listeners are CEOs of Adidas. Like company size, industry that you work better in, number of employees, the amount of revenue. Help us narrow it down for you.
Well, that's what I said. I like to, I rather than, it's fun to talk about CEOs, and there's a lot of power and money and glamour attached to that. But I see myself as working with people who are enterprise leaders. It could be a CEO of a Fortune 500. It could be a Silicon Valley startup. It could be a struggling family business that wants to find a successor. A friend of mine said, Gary Peck, he was a head of product design at Nike. He said the only difference between a big business and a small business is size. So whether you're talking to the CEO of a big company or an entrepreneur of a Silicon Valley startup or a delicatessen on the streets in New York somewhere, they're all dealing with the same thing. They all have to look at their vision. They all have to have some kind of strategy or business model. They all have to hire a team of good people. So the issues are the same regardless of what size.
Right, but they've obviously got to be able to afford you, and I know you're not cheap. So the delicatessen in New York City, if they're doing, all right, New York's a bad example, but like there could be a deli down the street from me here in Buffalo, New York. They might be happy making a couple $100,000 a year gross revenue, which isn't going to give them enough profit to hire somebody like you. So help me narrow it down just a little bit. Like I'm not asking for your prices, but what type of industry, what type of revenue size? Give me some way to narrow it down so our folks listening or watching go, oh, that's me. I should talk to Robert.
Well, I have like I said, let's say a big business rate and a medium-sized business rate, and then also a small business rate. My mission is to help enterprise leaders be successful. So if I'm talking to the guy that's running the deli down the street or the local craft brewery, I mentally adjust my rates to who I'm talking to. So, but I would say you could hire me for as little as $200 an hour or $250 an hour if you're a small business. It might go up to $10,000 a day if you're a CEO. I don't do it really for the money. The money makes it possible for me to do it. I do it just to really be able to help people. But I charge what the market will bear. I'd even do it on a pro bono basis if it would really have to do with the level of commitment that the person had. And I'm thinking about different industries. I kind of draw a blank with that.
Let me ask you this. What are some of the biggest issues that you're helping those leaders solve?
I think one is think bigger. And let me say, if I'm talking to a group of entrepreneurs in Buffalo or group of business owners in Buffalo, my come from is dream bigger, reimagine, disrupt the status quo. Let's go back to our delicatessen example and put it in Buffalo, New York, as opposed to New York City. I try to get people to, I try to help people develop a strategy that's based on the principle of being different. So if you're running a pizza place or a delicatessen, I might say, what you're doing is the same thing that's been done 1,000, 10,000 times before. If you want to succeed, you have to do something that's different. And then I will go on and say, you not only have to satisfy customers, you have to delight customers. So let's get involved in a conversation about how you're going to do it. I like that show with what's that guy? The Gordon Ramsay. He's a big famous guy, but he'll go and coach someone for a week who runs a small pizza place or a bakery or whatever it is. And it's amazing how stuck people are. I think a lot of what I do really is help people who are stuck, who don't know how to get unstuck.
Well, we all need that. So that is awesome. For our folks watching and listening, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about you and the amazing work that you're doing?
I have a great website. It's called www.masterfulcoaching.com. That's in the Boston area. I can give the number. 617-953-5252. It's www.masterfulcoaching.com. And don't be shy. It doesn't matter to me whether you're I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. I'm happy to talk to someone whether you're the CEO of a big company, a high-tech company, or a shop down the street.
All right. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. This has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Robert Hargrove of Masterful Coaching. Robert, thanks again for joining us.
All right. Thank you. Pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.